Are classic games dead? This is a question I've been wondering about lately. Board games are everywhere these days, but what is the hidden cost of such abundance, and where exactly do the classics fit in today's gaming world? I want to look at that today here on Legendary Tactics. First, let's define our terms. What is a classic game? I consider classic games to be the games invented before 1957, to pick an arbitrary date. Well, it's not entirely arbitrary. That's when the game Risk was first released. So, games like Stratego, Monopoly, and the so-called ancient games like chess, checkers, Go, backgammon, and dominoes all fall into this category. While games like classic games are arguably played more than ever because of digital and online play, especially against an artificial intelligence, do these games still resonate with people who are not casual gamers? I want to look at this in a broad way today and at the same time address what is called the cult of the new. The games we play in many ways reflect the society in which we live. Ancient games are mostly abstract with relatively simple rules, likely reflecting a society that wanted intellectual challenge and stimulation, but where literacy was not at the same level where it is today. But there really isn't a lot of them if you sum them up. In the past, the lack of leisure time, the aforementioned literacy issue, and available materials, among other factors, played into all of this, and many games have been lost forever to the passage of time. Even the lack of electric light played a role. I dare you to try and play a fiddly game like Squad Leader by candlelight, and you will understand what I mean. And so games have evolved along with our societal development. So where are we today? In the world of human entertainment, our modern lives have been overwhelmed with inexpensive choice. Streaming services have given us television shows, movies, and music at our fingertips, and in many cases almost literally for free. Today, the principal commodity and resource that we must manage is our time, as it doesn't matter how many movies you have access to, there's only so many you can watch. In recent times, we have come to see a board gaming renaissance. The sheer number of games at our fingertips is staggering, and more people are enjoying our hobby than ever before. The lockdowns of the last year and a half have added to this, as they have kept people from doing a lot of their normal social activities. Board gaming offers a nice social outlet and a communal puzzle to explore, and it has really caught on. But board gaming was growing in popularity before the pandemic began. People, and especially families, are looking for ways to connect which don't involve a screen of some sort, which allow for a lot of interaction, skill development, teaching lessons in competition like being a good winner and loser, while engaging cognitive functions and educating at the same time. Board games happen to fit the bill. And board gaming has come to represent a proud identity and expression of nerdiness, if you will, as evinced by the sizable attendance of an event like Gen Con, which in normal times attracts over 60,000 people. And so the number of board games that have been published over the last few years and that are in development has grown exponentially, which is all amazing news for our hobby. The reality, though, is that the Renaissance has a double edge. On one hand, it's great that we have games that cover so many different themes, so many different mechanics, and that can appeal to so many different tastes. But the downside is that we are overwhelmed with that choice. This era of our hobby has spawned concepts like the shelf of shame, where people buy games that essentially sit on their shelves as decorations, in some cases with the shrink wrap still on them completely unopened. And related to this, there is also what is referred to as the cult of the new. In board gaming these days, there is always something new and shiny to look at and to look forward to. But are we better off in having so much choice? Some people talk about the old days in gaming, about how in the 60s and 70s when there wasn't as much choice in games to play. You went to your local store and had maybe 5 or 6 options, most times including the usual ones like Monopoly, Risk, Scrabble, and the like. But while it was limited, it also allowed gamers to dive deep into the gameplay, formulating strategies, openings, and gambits that only revealed themselves after repeated plays. Think of all that has been written about the strategies of chess or Go, for example, and you'll see what I mean. These days, some games, even ones that we enjoy, unfortunately have to compete with dozens, if not hundreds of other titles, especially when you combine the collections owned by any given gaming group. Games may only be played once or twice, and most times are never really given a chance to make an impression. If a game doesn't blow you away right off the top, it's unlikely that it will be brought to the table ever again. Which means that, in a lot of cases, it's actually going to be the short, lighter games that get most of the gameplay. For example, I got a copy of Dungeon Mayhem a few months ago. Dungeon Mayhem is a game loosely based in fantasy/Dungeons and Dragons where each player has their own deck of cards and plays them to shield themselves, damage other players, or unleash special abilities. It's quick, easy, and the kids and I love it. The cards are already showing a fair amount of wear and tear, simply from overplay, not from any specific incident or lack of care. The game goes safely back in the box after play every time. But we now know the decks and the characters inside out. We can play to our strengths and try to overcome our weaknesses, and the gameplay is richer for it. But what of the longer games, the ones which tell a rich narrative that can only be achieved over many hours? I realize that there are some games on the far end of that spectrum like Vietnam 1965 to 1975 and Campaign for North Africa, which almost take playtime, immersion, and depth to an absurd degree. Who has 100 hours to play a game? I've always wondered that. Of course, there is a middle ground, games that last 1, 2, or 3 hours. What happens to those? We usually just end up with a surface understanding, a first impression, and then we move on. It's like speed dating in cardboard form. But what to do about this? Can a healthy balance be struck? I'm not sure. It seems that every gamer is caught up in the newest releases to some degree. Frosthaven is a great example. I have friends who have completed the full campaign of Gloomhaven, who are excited about doing it all over again in a different world and slightly different format. But how many people that own Gloomhaven have completed Gloomhaven? I would hazard a guess that it's easily not the majority. Perhaps you can share your experience with this sort of thing in the comments section below, as I can't think of any other method to quantify this in a meaningful way. And hey, while you're down there, why not like the video and subscribe as well? I encourage you to do that for any and every YouTube channel that you enjoy, as it helps us creators to continue to give you great content. As human beings, we are constantly attracted to the novel, the bright new thing. There's something great about opening the box and taking in the new game smell, which is probably very unhealthy for us, as new car smell is. And punching out the counters, scanning the rules, anticipating the fun and enjoyment is awesome. But what of the old classics? Should they be given the precious time that is mostly being spent on the newest thing? Well, I would submit that the classics are classics for a reason. There's a reason that games like backgammon, Go, chess, and checkers have survived as long as they have. Even going back to the old Avalon Hill and SPI titles, whose rules can read like a mathematics textbook, can provide a lot of enjoyment if you're willing to take some time to invest in them. But aren't games just better now? Haven't they evolved in a way where the newer games are just superior, having taken the best ideas from the past and introduced some new innovations? Well, it's tough to say. While there have been new mechanics introduced over the years, and some games have certainly fallen out of favor, such as those that use roll and move, for example, to judge whether one game is more fun than another is almost purely a subjective thing. I would say that it's like music. Was there great music back in the 60s and 70s? Is the music out there somehow better today with all the new and accumulated playing and recording techniques and technologies out there? So personal taste does play into this in a major way. Hey, diversity and volume of choice is awesome, but with great choice comes great responsibility, so here's what I suggest. Start by taking a game or two from your shelf of shame, open it up, learn how to play, and if it is a half-decent game, as I'm sure it is, see if you can play it through at least 5 full times. In between game nights, read up on the game, study the strategy, assess the reviews, and immerse yourself in the game space for a while. Obviously, if it's a game you're not enjoying, you don't have to go to this extent, but make the choice to have a deeper gaming experience as opposed to playing every game that comes down the pike only once. I think you might be surprised at how much you will get out of the experience, how you might find your initial impression of a game might change over repeated plays, and how it might change the way you play games going forward. Check your biases at the door. Just because a game at a garage sale has a faded box and components doesn't mean it is less fun to play. Give it a try. And if you are finding yourself attracted to a particular historical period, which happens to have a game from 1981 that recreates it, dig it up on eBay and try it. Don't let the year of publication influence your decision. And once in a while, play a classic like Risk or Stratego, or even an ancient game like chess, checkers, backgammon, or any other classic. You might be surprised at how much fun they are. Give your kids the experience of playing games that have shaped human experience and culture over many centuries. My family has had a ton of enjoyment out of Mancala, for example, a game that was played in Egypt over 1300 years ago. Don't look down on a game just because it isn't the newest Kickstarter release. Take some time to explore a world that we've all been ignoring, the games of yesteryear. We hope you found this video useful and interesting, and potentially full of some neat ideas. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and just before you do, don't forget to click on like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. This is Legendary Tactics.